All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Resilience is Your Superpower. I'm super excited and honored to be here with my dear friend Eva, Dr. Eva Silot Bravo. Um, just to let you know, we are here every Tuesday through Friday in the month of April to celebrate the rebranding of my self love group coaching program that is now being called Resilience. And the reason it got rebranded to the name Resilience is because in my transformational journey of over 20 years, I've done so many different assessments, personality tests, quizzes, all these things to find out about myself. And in that process, I was often asked to look around in my community and ask people around me what they thought about me, like what were the attributes that I had. And most of them, 95% of them, would always say that one of the things about me that they knew was I was always resilient. And it took me almost 20 years to overcome and get to the point where I am in my self love journey of loving myself. And so when I was thinking about the name for the program, I looked around and I realized that every single woman that has participated in the program thus far has that attribute as well. She also possesses resilience. So it just clicked for me one day and I said, you know what? The new name for the program is going to be called Resilience because that is an attribute that is so important to self love, to overcoming challenges, to getting to where you are today. And so I wanted to do this as a tribute to these women that took the program, but also to as a tribute to women everywhere, to inspire women. So I brought together some of my favorite people on this planet, some of my favorite women, women who are doing amazing things, who are thriving, who are overcoming their own challenges to get to where they are. And I brought them here so maybe they can share a little bit of their knowledge, their wisdom, and inspire maybe something in you to help you in your journey and access your resilience. So I'm super excited to be here with Eva Bravo today. She is many things, but I will start by saying that she is an independent scholar, an educator, a communicator, a mother who promotes awareness about the legacy of the African diaspora, in particular on the Afro Hispanic, Afro Caribbean, Afro Cuban, and Afro Latino cultural communities. She is a published writer with more than 20 texts to her credit and 3 book projects in the works. She has lectured at institutions like Brown, Princeton, and the West Indies University, and she has appeared in a PBS documentary. She's a PhD in philosophy, cultural studies, Spanish and Latin American literature from the University of Miami. She studied classical music and piano. She's a former diplomat to the United Nations, and she taught at Barry University. This woman is incredible, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm so grateful and honored to have her here today.
Mhm.
Welcome, Eva.
Gracias. Thank you so much, Mio, for having me. Thank you for the
Absolutely.
work you do with women. It's so important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Eva, just to start us off, I always like to ask, in your own words, just to tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you up to? What are you into these days? What are you working on so that the audience gets an idea?
I thought about it, and honestly, what I'm doing nowadays is healing.
Yes.
And it has been an ongoing process, especially for the last year, in which I'm basically discovered I have been by myself, with myself, living basically kind of isolated a little bit, but like not in an intentional way, taking advantage of the opportunity that the pandemic of time has gave us
Mm-hmm.
to explore who I am, what I am here for.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Beautiful. Well, we came here today to talk about resilience. And I know that you're a resilient woman. I know you because we have a lot in common. And I brought with resilient women to talk today. So, resilience is a very powerful word, but it's also a word that's used a lot. But sometimes people don't even know what it means. So, just for the viewers out there, resilience is a person's ability to handle stress, failure, rejection, criticism, and life in general. Resilient people tend to be the ones that know that stress happens and they learned how to expect it and manage it. And so resilient people possess something called grit. And grit are qualities, the qualities that embody grit are courage, conscientiousness, and endurance. So, Eva, I would love to hear if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
I was saying that I really enjoy resilience because in a way it manifests or it represents my life, so far. I just turned 50 years old, as I told you, and I'm kind of asking about myself. I'm like, what does this mean? So in a way, it means resilience. Um, I would say that if you want to accomplish your dreams, and I am a person who dreams a lot, I've always been, you have to do stuff, right? You have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to meditate a lot, breathe a lot, and then you have to think, constantly assessing where I am, where I'm heading, what I'm doing in order to align myself to my goals, to where I want to be. And yeah, being a mother also implies a lot of resilience, and I am really devoted to that because I really enjoy being a mom, even though it's a hard thing. So you have to have a lot of resilience because there are many things that you don't know. You don't have the answers, and still you have to proceed. um, Being a migrant, I'm a first generation migrant. And even though I'm an educated migrant, it doesn't mean that I haven't gone through many challenges that migrants, first generation, go through. And especially because I decided to study. And then, the fact that I did a master's when my son was 2 years old and I got divorced at the time that I started my master's degree. And that was the thing because I have to stop, leave the program, and then come back the next semester better prepared because personally I was, it was a weird place. I all of a sudden lost my family, my structure, right?
Right.
My support structure. And then I have to redefine that and see how I could do that being a single mom, a migrant, an Afro-Cuban woman, because that adds layers to my experience as a person,
Yes.
and a female voice. So, you know, being able to understand that it was not a failure, that it was just a moment that I was having to myself. And also, resilience for me has to do with dealing with the conditioning, because as women, we are so conditioned, right? To have certain expectations about our lives or how we behave as social individuals, and then adjust that and realize that you have to reevaluate where you are and who you are every certain time. That's also resilience. And I would say for me lately, I understand resilience also as a spiritual journey because it's not going to stop. The obstacles are always going to be there. But how do you tackle them? Well, breathing, meditating, going inwards. And it took me a while for me to understand, that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy to be resilient. Let's face it. It's one of the most difficult things because you're always, me myself, I'm always questioning. I'm like, why? And you start, when you start playing the victim role, sometimes you start questioning, like, why is life treating me that way? And you start comparing your journey with other people's journey your age,
Yes.
and why I am not where this person is, and why I don't have this material success and whatever. And then you realize that because every path is unique, it's different, and there's no service on comparing ourselves to others. And resilience, I think it's a way of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And so you had to overcome something substantial to get to where you are today. You were in the middle of a master's program, you were dedicated, you were a woman, working hard. You get divorced at the same time, and you give birth to your child. Oh no, your child was 2 years old
2 years
at the
old.
time. Your child was a young child. you get divorced and you're in the middle of this master's program. How, what did you do? How did you overcome that to continue moving forward? What did you find within you to do that?
I know instinctively who I am.
Mhm.
One thing that I really have is that I trust myself throughout the whole process because I know who I am, even though I forget sometimes.
Yes, we all do, right?
Many times I'm like, who? But I really there's a strength, a force, a strength within me that keeps me, driving, and it's just the fact that I trust who I am, especially my capacities and what I'm here to do. That basically is, I think, to manifest, you know, and myself as an spiritual person and a spiritual being that manifest connections, manifest the need for communication, and to negotiate as a way of moving forward with other people, with circumstances in life, And I have that. It's just when you're faced with difficulties, you forget. And then you don't have sometimes the resources available, right? And we're not, even though I have been isolated and by myself, whatever, we're social beings and we need to make sense of the world sometimes with people, right? And then, yeah, understanding that is part of the resilience journey for me has been.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to get into that in a minute. But before we do, I wanted to ask you, what was that one thing, Eva, that made you realize what it is you wanted to do and which is what you do now? Like, what is that one thing that made you realize, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going.
Actually, I'm preparing my book proposal, my first book proposal. That's what I'm doing now let's say in the third dimension, right? Spiritual, I told you I'm doing a healing process. The one thing again, it's probably the rejections, because I have applied to many different, positions, grants, opportunities. And every time I get a rejection, I'm like, oh no, these people don't know who I am. Oh no. Oh no, this is that instead of being a negative thing, I take it not personally, but as an incentive for me to move forward and because I wanted to get closer to who I am and what I can offer. So it's kind of like, I have taken the negative things that happen to me as incentive to move forward, to get closer to who I am.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And it's funny because no one likes to talk about failures, right? It's like, it's such a, you know,
But what is failure after all?
exactly, what is failure after all? Exactly. And so you were just talking about how you've taken like rejections, which people would consider failures, and you turn that into fuel for your journey. What would you consider, Eva, is your one of your greatest failures maybe in your life that was actually one of the biggest things that opened up for you as a result for it?
One of my biggest failure was my divorce, because and I see it kind of not a failure, kind of an experience that I have to go through in order to know, because I didn't know. We didn't know. We were too young. We were just doing what we thought was the right thing. But now that I think about it, I have learned so much from that, because it really impacted me negatively for a good part of my life, and then in a good way, because once I took it in a positive, sense. But yeah, and also because at least in my Cuban culture, divorce, I associate divorce with the failure, with not, you know, being able to sustain one of the biggest achievements that you're supposed to do, which is a family, sustain a family in the traditional way. But I have to say, and God forgive me, it has been one of the most enlightened paths that I have been through, especially for me to get to know myself,
Yes.
my mistakes, my shortcomings, where I am not being myself when I relate to other people.
Yes.
And it has been kind of how can I say this? It has scared me a little bit to move forward because I'm not that open, honestly, to love again, even though I'm trying. So that's part of the resilience, opening up to believe in the need or the joy or the benefits of another relationship. And I am there, I'm exploring that. But still, the fact that, I learned a lot from that, I am very thankful for that after all. And I'm very happy that I said that because it was really serious, for me.
So, in essence, this is actually a time where you started to realize you were resilient in the process. Am I
After
right?
years, because at the beginning it was all depression. I got depressed, and I got depressed because I was not aligned. I was not, and I guess we always get depressed in a way or another when things like that, are important to us happen. But the fact that, I learned so much from that and I was able to overcome it and then raise my child by myself with all the doubts. Yeah, it made it.
Exactly. It was like you were depressed because you were not living up to what society expects and to the perfect portrait cookie cutter life, the husband, the kids, the cars, the house, all these things that we get,
Identities,
the identities
narratives.
and the roles and the narratives that we get placed on ourselves, that we almost get imprinted by or
Oh
programmed
my
by,
God.
and it becomes part of our identity. And then when those things get ripped apart, you start to realize, okay, who am I? What is my identity? What matters to me? What am I about?
Beyond the societal conditioning
Beyond the
that has
societal
been.
expectations.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's
And
very
it took me a
powerful.
while. It took me years. I have to say now that I'm 50, I'm really realizing who I am and what I'm here for,
Wow.
And I'm what I'm grateful of all this process is to realize the strength that we have as individuals. We honestly are shaped in a way that we really don't need much to be happy or to be successful or to feel accomplished. We're just conditioned to believe that we need to do this and that, and But that has been a good, place for me to gain my strength internally.
Beautiful. And you mentioned about community earlier, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you today. Because those of us who have gotten through a lot to get to where we are, sometimes we have to take the bull by the horns, right? And we have to take control. And you got to do it yourself. And if it's going to get done right, you got to be the one to do it. And it's sometimes often a lonely path because you're like the one doing it and you're alone and you're in control and you got to get this done and you got to overcome, right? But you know we sometimes have a fear when we're going through that of giving up control or asking for help. It's almost like it's foreign. It's such a foreign thing because we're so used to being in demand, being in control, doing things ourselves. And so has asking for help been a challenge for you in your journey of resilience? And if so, how did you overcome that? And what are you learning, or what did you learn about bringing in community and connecting?
Well, yeah, asking for help, it has been really difficult for me because I have trust issues. So sometimes people are too busy, they are in their own path, in their own world, so they wouldn't have time for my things. Other times I'm stubborn. I just want to try do it myself. But that's not always possible. But I have to say that another thing that I have learned in this process is that, you have I am how do I say this? I am kind of selective when I ask for help because I what kind of help, I really need. I don't know. I have been in that sense, I have been working with my therapist. That has been my comfort place where I that I can ask for all the help kind of unconditionally.
Beautiful. Yes.
And it has been a really good, help. That
Yes.
has been my one of my great source of help, my therapy.
Absolutely. That's huge. That's huge. And what has opened up for you as a result of accepting help and of opening yourself up? What has, transformed in your life, or what benefits can you see from allowing yourself to accept help in the process?
I trust myself way more. I know I trust my capacities. I am more in tune with who I am and what I can give. And I am learning also how to receive love, because that's not, I'm a giver. And that's another thing that I realized throughout all this process, that I'm a giver. When you're a giver, the problem is you don't know how to receive. You kind of living in an unbalanced life, because we need to live all in balance, right? We need to receive too in order to feel fulfilled. And I'm learning, you know, in the middle of this process on that.
That's beautiful. That's exactly right. And that's one of the main things that we cover in my work in the resilience program, is how to harmonize your giving, your receiving, your feminine energy, your masculine energy, because we are living in a Western industrialized society, which is main focus is on production, and it's on what did you do, what did you give, how did you show up, or what are you producing. And so it's about shifting that, because you can't produce all the time, 100% of the time, and 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 expect, I mean, you're going to get burnt out, you're going to expend yourself, so we really need to come back to having a balance, like you were saying, when you have this internal balance where you give but you also receive, you receive and then you also give, and it's this ebb and flow. Like everything in the universe operates with this beautiful, perfect ebb and flow. And so if we can access that and connect that, we create more peace for ourselves, more peace of mind, more balance, more harmony, and our relationships improve, our life improves, our projects improve, and everything just begins to flow. You start to connect with your flow state.
I have to say, I didn't believe in any of that, and now I'm a believer, because there's so much to discover about our internal strength as individuals when we spend time looking for our own realities and our own truth. I don't think as Western subjects we're taught to trust in ourselves, to trust in others. I think unfortunately we are taught a lot to compete among each other. And that, and not only capitalism, I come from a society that supposedly was socialist, and it was the same thing. It was all about what do you show up, how do you show up, what do you do for a living, what are you doing in society. And another thing that I learned too is that it's not about, honestly, the money that you make, and it's not about what are you doing, how are you showing up in your life. It's about who you are as an individual. What do you do for others? What do you do for yourself?
Right.
Because you can have the best product in your life, but if you as an individual who is selling this product is not showing any alignment with the product, I don't believe in that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
The
these are
perspective.
lessons that I'm learning in the resilience path. Let's put it this way.
Yes, absolutely. That's beautiful, because that leads me to the next question, which is, after everything you've learned, what have you learned on your journey that you take with you, that you remember, that's something that you take with you on your journey that you've learned, and where do you go from here?
One thing that I take is that many arguments are not worthy. I used to be that person that used to always have arguments, and still, and being engaged in discussions and stuff like that. I believe more in the power of silence, because sometimes arguments don't many times don't go anywhere, and they're a wasting of time. But if we stop and think and then have conversations from a balanced place where the thing is not about being right, but just to listen and flow with the other person that you're talking, things are better. But of course, you have to pick your interlocutor, the person that you're going to speak with, because some people just they don't know how to do all the things, but are being argumentative, and that's all they do. I'm kind of sick and tired of it, you know.
And so, where do you go from here, Eva? Now that you've learned these lessons in your journey of resilience, where do you go from here?
I'm very optimistic. I believe in myself, never, ever, more than ever. I all I see is beautiful things for real. And I have been through, stuff that are hard that in a way could condition me to believe that things are not good. But no, I honestly, I as I said, I gain confidence in my efforts, in what you do have an impact. I need to have an impact because my ideas are valuable and I'm here in this society to contribute. I have lived enough and I am trained enough to recommend a lot of people a lot of things about politics, about social justice, about interpersonal relationships, about race relationships, about gender. And these are the things that I'm focusing on. And it would take whatever it takes. But, once you're focused, um, things show us up, appear. And now, I'm in this beautiful moment where I have found spaces that are listening to me and are helping me to, to channel my energy and my efforts. So it is a beautiful thing. And I didn't believe in this before. And that's what really, you know, get me surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's beautiful because like when you look at the arc of your path of your journey, coming from Cuba, becoming a woman and being a woman and becoming a PhD and going through the whole program and all the education, raising a son at the same time, you know, you really did demonstrate resilience and that desire to never give up. Even though it was challenging, it was hard, there were probably crying nights and lonely nights, but it all got you to where you are today. So therefore, it is divine. It got you here.
Another thing is to give value to my PhD because believe it or not, it was an intense effort. And I am obsessed with the idea that I have to provide value, not society, myself. I have to provide value to those years of learning and training. And it's a personal thing for me. And even though society, let's put it this way, it's a tricky thing when it comes to being a PhD because you are trained in ways that sometimes you don't fit in places, but still try finding that spaces or creating spaces for myself that is so challenging and at the same time so beautiful.
Rewarding.
Yeah, because I never thought that I could create anything. I don't know why. We're creators, and that's another thing that I took from this job, this path. We are all creators. We have just have these repressed feelings about our creative capacity. And the fact that I know in a way I'm creating my own space with my own ideas and my own projects, and they're taking shape as we speak, is a beautiful thing, you know? And yeah, another thing that I take from this path is learning. The more I think about everything that I have done, honestly, the less I know. I know about experience, but I don't know. There are so many things that I'm learning, and it's beautiful that I'm always learning. I love it because it keeps me active, it keeps me young, you know, and I like that.
Amazing. Yes. I'm an eternal learner like you. I will be learning forever.
Especially in the internet world, there are so many things that a person like myself, I say that I'm a 50-year woman with a brain of a millennial because I'm kind of like I with millennials I'm like why do you why you were born in this age, that you have everything in your hands and you don't know what to do with it. It's such a fascinating world when you think about it, full of possibilities. Because we have to go to a library and take a trip to read stuff that now you have on the internet. You know how many things we have today that people like myself used to go to a place in order to learn that stuff? Such a privilege being a millennial, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, there's so much to learn, especially when it comes to business and how to convert business into service. I am obsessed also with the idea on how to provide service. Because, yeah, I can say, I want to help, but help, that's a career. That's a thing. And I want to do it right because there's so many people in need. There's so many situations that we can help as individuals. And I'm obsessed with learning how to, translate my efforts into service for people that are really, really need, let's say, cultural education or education or when it comes to, empathy, intentional empathy, how to get to know each other culturally speaking, because yeah, we talk a lot about being Democrats or being Republicans or being in the political process and democracy, but when it comes to our personal lives, how Democrat we are, you know, how tolerant, how flexible are we, how much we listen to each other. I'm learning that from my son. He's always telling me, Mom, you don't listen. You think you do, but you don't, and
How,
it's
yeah, how
important.
democratic are we, right? Like, how are we being exactly? How are we connecting with our fellow man, with our fellow woman, with the
How
people?
sensitive are we to the realities of other people that are not living our own reality? How are we helping people in need? Except for the rhetoric that we all have, the beautiful rhetoric we all have in internet. How are we really helping people in need? And I am kind of obsessed with that. And I think it's a good place of happiness because, I'm in my search, my personal, I read a lot, and a lot of people coincide that one of the source of happiness is to give, and
To
I
be of
really,
service.
yeah, I have done that with my son, I think, but I want to do it for other people, on a larger scale, on a systematic basis.
Yes.
Let's
Beautiful.
see what happens. I'm very excited.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to keep an eye on Eva because she's working on some amazing projects. This woman is a powerhouse. Anything having to do with the diaspora, Afro Latin studies, Afro American studies, Cuban, Afro Cuban studies. This woman is incredible. So, Eva, before we wrap up today, I always like to ask one final question.
Yes.
What words of wisdom would you like to leave our viewers who may be on a similar journey as you of resilience?
Release and let go. I have that in front of me. I think we need to release all the conditioning, all the suffering, all the unnecessary, things that we add to our lives that don't help us. Starting by situations, places, friendships, people, anything. And then focusing our own, life. I know it's not easy. I'm saying that it's not easy, but I think that would be my advice if I can give any.
Beautiful. It's not easy, but it's always worth it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We're here all through the month of April to talk to amazing women like such as Eva about resilience. So tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. in the month of April to see more amazing interviews like this. I'm so honored and privileged and grateful to have had a talk and be able to sit down and talk with Dr. Eva. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful
Thank
to have
you.
you.
Thank you, Mio. The pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Resilience. Resilience is your superpower. So never
Good
forget
luck with
that.
this. I really love it.
Thank you. And be kind to yourselves. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.